I suppose Ultimate Dallas is really how all these people came from all these countries that were so far away.
Yeah, do you watch it?
Exactly, okay.
I would think.
So welcome to Ultimate Dallas. It's been a while, 40 years. Did you think 40 years ago you'd be here today? Talking about,
Let's all say yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
The best show ever, and we knew we'd be here.
right. So, and a lot's changed over 40 years. I mean, both in television and in Hollywood, you've gone through, you're now with the shooting high definition. When you came back, it was obviously a different way of shooting in high definition, and different issues going on in the news, with things like the recession and the Me Too movement and all that stuff. And how do you feel times have changed from when you first started to now, and like when you came back and stuff like that?
Well, we cross over so many different phases of the business. I mean, in terms of just the time scheme of things. But that's when you work consistently, which for 13 years we did, and then come back on the reboot, and everybody's working in between time, you just roll with those punches. And by and large, most of them are value creative changes. It's wonderful to have a camera that doesn't need to be reloaded every 20 minutes, and when it's time to reload it, it takes literally 5 seconds to change a chip. The mobility of cameras that are that size, as opposed to requiring 2 burly people to wheel them around, those are wonderful things. And the Me Too movement and all of that, it's about time. It's just about time, and it's the appropriate change according to the times. And I'm personally thrilled to be a part of each of those phases as they occur.
Because obviously, when the show was on, people referred to it as the chauvinistic male macho drama show, and women have obviously come a lot further in the years since then. And
people remember the women on our show equally as they remember the men, if not more. Going through that line last night, everybody was jumping to get next to Sue Ellen and little Lucy. And every once in a while, someone would throw a bone to Steve and me.
Oh, that's not true.
That is not true.
No, don't believe him.
all right,
Erase it.
let's try looking back over the 40
We
years.
also had a lot of very young people. Did you realize that yesterday?
There were young people,
Yeah.
right? That
Really?
was surprising.
I loved that. And you're wondering, like, how are these young people discovering this? Which I guess, like you were
They're
saying,
getting it off the internet.
off the
Which
internet.
brings me to the next question: is how have you embraced social media and seen that as it's unrolled? Obviously, when the series came back in 2012, you were all doing little live Twitters, and Josh Henderson was showing you, Linda, how to Twitter, and now you're on Instagram, and just.
Well, personally, I'm limping along. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not obsessed with it.
Right.
I forget to do it because I'm out walking around or doing something else. I'm not attached.
I mean, you're living in the moment, are you?
I'm living in the moment. That's what I'm doing.
Yay! There's a concept.
And I just, when I visit my grandson, who's 15, he's constantly on it with no eye contact nor communication, and that's sad for me. And so as far as social media for us, I'm there reluctantly. I know it may be important, and I love to hear from the fans and all that, but it isn't my life, and it's a small part of my life.
But it's obviously helped keep the show
Absolutely.
embraced by a new generation of viewers and fans. Now, do you think something like Who Shot JR could have been kept a secret in this day and age at all?
No.
Because I know David Lynch was very good with keeping Twin Peaks under wraps last season. And
We all agreed, we talked about this the other day, social media, it would have been out You couldn't held
Yeah,
a secret.
couldn't have done.
Okay. I think.
Right. Now, over the last 40 years, you've obviously done a lot of episodes, and I want to see if, for each person next to you, what would you say was one of their best scenes that you thought really defined them as a character? So Steve.
As a character.
Yeah, for Linda, and Linda for Patrick, and for Charlene, and then Charlene back to Steve.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
That's a tough one.
You're tough.
Linda was talking about it over the last few days, and I agree with her. It's when she was down at the worst part, she was an alcoholic and she was on the street, and it was really a big stretch because it was certainly not her. And really great acting opportunity, and a place to see life and humanity, and she was really wonderful in those scenes.
Drinking with Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah.
So Linda for Patrick, what would you pick?
Well, Patrick, I'm not talking about one scene. The thing I looked at Patrick about was the growth, the enormous growth that Patrick had as the character of Bobby Ewing. In the beginning, he was, Larry lovingly referred to him as Goody Two-Shoes. And for me, seeing the original show and then the reboot and the growth of the character over those 20-year that 20-year hiatus was extraordinary, because I saw the power and the talent that had really grown. And that's what I loved. It wasn't a specific scene that I can pinpoint, actually, because it was the big arc that I saw.
Right. And
Well,
for Charlene?
the interesting thing about Dallas is when we did the first 5 episodes, we had a single character trait, in essence. We all had one thing that we kind of did for those 5 episodes that established who the characters were on the surface. The beauty of the show going as long as it did is the writers, and I think Leonard, spearheading that concept, started to find out what was driving those characters to be who they were. And when I think of the character of Lucy in the first 5 episodes, this, sort of not caring, rich girl, silver spoon in the mouth, which she described her character as being, and all of that, was minimal dimensional. And then as the season started going on and we started seeing what underpinnings this character of Lucy had, that's when Charlene's acting really started to shine. And watching her do episodes where she's kidnapped and then has to deal with things, or when she's trying to keep a secret that she doesn't want to keep a secret, and you see the depth of who this character has been to become the little Lucy that we had in the 5 episodes. That's when you really treasure your profession, and then seeing that profession grow in other people.
Right, okay. And for Steve?
I agree with what Patrick is saying. The writing, we all were blessed to have wonderful, amazing scripts, amazing characters to play. When the show was released on DVD, I knew we were doing good work, but I said to Larry, Uncle Larry, my God, I really understand why this show is so popular, these performances, all of them, everybody's acting was great. And the thing I'll say about Steve is, you cannot picture anybody else playing Ray Krebs, right? I mean, he took it, and there's nobody else that could have played it. And so that he really did a great job. He owned it, that's right. He owned it. Nobody else could have done that. There were so many great things he did.
Now, do you have...
I just am sorry, though, the show is on Netflix now and stuff. I have heard they have taken all of our scenes out from the first few episodes. And I'm like, no, because that was so great. So I really hope it's not true, but...
Right.
Well, I'm happy it's on Netflix, though, and I'm happy people have another chance to see it.
Me too, I am too.
Now, what about, obviously, pick one moment for Larry, that it can't be Who Shot JR or anything to do with that.
I'll tell you, my favorite moment was he just said the word Bobby when I died. When I watched the episode where Bobby dies, and he's standing at the bedside, and he said, Bobby, makes me cry right now.
don't have a moment, but there's one thing that I did in the show that nobody else did. Ray Krabs tried to kill JR 3 different times. And in each of those scenes, there was, stunts and physical, and you had to really know what you're doing and choreograph it, and punches and strangling and falls and stuntmen. And it was really fun to do that with Larry. I like to do that kind of work, and he did too. So we really enjoyed that.
Almost burned down the house.
Almost, hey, but I saved the son,
Yeah, right.
Almost burned down the house. That's right.
Do you have one for?
I do. I have two. One is when I brought John Ross back to Sue Ellen, and Larry was up in the hospital, and Lucy and he watches from there, and he can't do anything, and I'm bringing John Ross to Sue Ellen, and I just look at him and I go, but my favorite, I just loved that. It was just so much fun to do it, even though he was way up there and off camera and all that. But when Sue Ellen, what had happened to you this time, where he was, and you were dying, and he was there, and he was crying, and I'm going to start laughing because his performance was fabulous. And I know you've seen it then on the gag reel where Sue Ellen is there. And Bobby, I loved her. And he's you see him being so vulnerable. She's so beautiful. And you can see that how much he genuinely loves Sue Ellen. And it's heartbreaking, and then on the gag reel it turns into Patrick and Larry doing a funny song, and Linda's there all taped up with the machinery, and all of a sudden Linda's there. Bouncing, laughing. It's one of the funniest moments, but his performance up to then was fabulous.
Yeah.
JR, would it help to sing that song we used to as a kid? Do your balls hang low?
Do they swing to and fro? Do they itch like a bitch when you drag them in the dish?
Can you show them over your shoulder like a continental soldier? Do your balls hang low?
You never knew what to expect from.
But how he was able to keep that performance, knowing he was going, knowing the two of you were going to do that.
We already planned it.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like those scenes. He didn't like the mushy scenes, those sort of kissing scenes, lovey-dovey, I love you. He didn't like those, really. As an actor, he didn't like them. And I said, but you have to do them. I don't like it. I don't like those loving. Why do I have to do this? No, they know I love you. No. And he would be grumbling the entire time. I just said, just shut up, darling, and do it. Just shut up and do it. That's the way it was.
Shut up and love me.
We want to go home sometime today.
Right. So ours was a daily adventure. Daily scenes with Mr. Hagman. There really wasn't one, and I was always angry at him because on every interview they'd say, Mr. Hagman, what was your favorite scene? And he'd say, the time that I put Sue Ellen in the sanitarium. And I would just sit there going, why was that your favorite scene? It wasn't even interesting. It was you just sent her away, and they had the little orderly people taking Sue Ellen away. He insisted that was his very favorite scene of all time.
It was one of my favorites too, I gotta say.
Just to upset you.
What? I couldn't believe it. So I always laughed, and we always, of course, argued because I couldn't understand. But that was kind of on camera and off camera, so that was normal for us.
Right. So as we wind down, looking back over the 40 years, and we did some Facebook Live for the site last night, and are there messages that you have for the fans, and then give Larry the last word, and what would he say to the fans?
He'd sing that song.
He'd probably sing this song. Well, he'd probably thank them for making him so rich.
That's right. There you are. Yeah.
That's what he.
Yeah, he would say that.
I would echo that chorus.
Yeah.
And we couldn't have ever had the success that we did without the fans. And I always felt that, and I always went to work thinking that I'm doing this for all my friends and family and those people out there that love to watch this show. I'm going to go in and give it everything I've got.
And Linda?
Yeah, there's just great gratitude and appreciation for the people around the world, still to this day, that have tuned in and watched us and loved us and cried with us and laughed with us. There's just huge gratitude.
It's because it still goes on. The fact that we're here right now, especially this group, these 4 people, come here because those people never went away. And to this minute, right now, we're here, and we'll stay here. You know, if they gave you a 3-hour window to do this interview, we'd sit here for 3 hours. Not because we like you, understand that. It's because in that camera are all the people who are responsible for the lives we lead. And we have such gratitude, like Linda said, for them and their loyalty. You know, for 20 years when we weren't on the air, they were there, and because they were there, we came back. And then we've been off the air again for a while, and they were there last night. They're always going to be there, and we'll always be here for them.
Charlene?
Yeah, just real gratitude, such appreciation, and it's overwhelming actually sometimes when I think about it. Just the reaction of the fans. It's really lovely.